To the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Spurs just lost their 15th game in a row. They have not won a game since November 2nd. How are you?
I did not realize it was that bad for the Spurs.
Poughkeepsie, you're on the air. Sorry, that was like a weird Larry King. I just had a train of thought. How are you? Walla Walla, Washington, we're live.
My Mavericks are up big over the Jazz.
Big deal.
41 points in the fourth.
We're tanking for the number one draft pick.
Didn't you already get him?
Yeah, but that's...
You think for next year's already?
Just need another one. He didn't play tonight, I don't think, by the way. Not that would have... Anywho.
Well, I mean, Doncic took a night off to go be with his lady friend, giving birth. And then he bounced right back in the lineup the next day. I was like, that's dedication, man.
It is. It's something.
Or, yeah, it's, I don't know.
It's dedication to something.
It's dedication to something.
Dedication to getting a full night's sleep. Get me out of there. Where am I going again?
I got a basketball game
yes.
I got to get back to. Goodbye.
Take me to Utah.
Speaking of not knowing where you're going, portal season, full effect. Wild, Michael. The portal opened up on Monday. We'll talk about that. But Texas Tech may not have an offensive line or a wide receiver room at the end of the week.
Or a punter.
Or somebody to punt the ball, which is okay. You know why? Because punts suck. And we go for it every fourth down anyways. So maybe Brooke was like, hey, man, I'll never actually punt at Texas Tech. So I'm just going to go ahead and bounce.
Brooke saw the writing on the wall and just wanted to take his talents elsewhere.
Yeah, why don't you go play for a team that punts a bunch, like Baylor or somebody.
Iowa.
Oh my gosh, Iowa. 10-2 Iowa.
Well, 10-3
anyways,
now, right?
Yeah, who's counting the
Was that
title
the
games?
score of their last game, or is that their record? It's hard for me to tell.
You know, it's probably the same. So
I'm going to look up who had the most punts. Go ahead. Keep going.
Football. We're going to talk about football. Texas Tech heading to the Independence Bowl. We'll talk about that. And then we'll get to the preview of that game next week, because the game is next week. Good gravy. This is such a... Nope. We'll get to that in a little bit. Football to talk about. Look into the transfer portal. Look what the roster may look like. Yeah.
I was right. Iowa. Torrey Taylor. Number one in the country with most punts attempted with 86.
Good gravy.
86 punts. He has 4,000 punt yards. So not only does he have 86 punts, but he's really stinking good at it. He was averaging...
You would hope so.
Let me go back to here. Hang on a second. 13 games, 86 punts, 47.9 yards per punt.
Jeez.
That's third in the country. That's how you do it. That's how you do it, folks. So let me see. I think he's a senior. I don't know.
Stars are aligning.
Might see Brooke line up in the, get up in the old Iowa Hawkeyes. Oh, Lord.
We'll talk about the rest of the Big 12 bowl games.
Lots of punts.
If you care about that. Punts suck. We'll talk about the championship game. Snooze fest. And then basketball. Got lots of basketball. Last weekend, this week, there was a game tonight. We'll talk about Texas Tech taking down Omaha by, well, basically 30 points. But Omaha went on a 9-0 run to end the game, so you could have beaten them by 40 points, essentially. I'm gonna
Slacking.
count it because you would put in Yahoo and Francis and other guys I don't even know their names. So, but we'll get into football first, Michael. And as we have in the past few weeks, we're gonna start with the actual football. Texas Tech soccer coaching staff named the United Soccer Association's Midwest Coaching Staff of the Year. So congratulations to Tom Stone and his group. This honor and recognition allows them to move on for consideration for national coaching staff of the year. I don't know how many regions there are with the United Soccer Association's coaching staffs of the year. Staves. That's music staffs, but anyways, Tom Stone and his bunch, best in the Midwest.
Are we now going to spend the rest of the podcast debating how Lubbock is considered Midwest?
No.
Okay.
The thing with like Texas teams, especially like if you look across the professional divisions, and I know that that doesn't really count for much, they're literally in like every different division, directional division, except for North.
Texas, it's like a whole nother country.
It is. You want to talk about coaches first or players in terms of portaling and moving on?
Let's do coaches because I have not kept
Well,
track of that very closely.
so not like official Texas Tech coaches moving on, but you had two coaches on your staff interviewing and were finalists or semi-finalists for a head coaching position here in the state. Kenny Perry and Zach Kitley both interviewed for the UTEP opening that ultimately went to the guy from out east somewhere. Blanking on him. I don't know. Either way. Uh, so you don't have a guy just yet leaving your staff. Other similar type of openings may come up for them to interview and to throw their hat in the ring in. Wish them the best of luck if that's something they pursue. Um,
Is
I know
UTEP a Midwest school?
they are they're a Mexican school
Okay.
from Mexico.
That's Midwestern Mexico?
Northern Mexico. I don't know. I don't know how UTEP would fit into the Midwest at all, but they're barely Texas. They're more New Mexico than anything.
They're almost their own thing too. Like Texas is their own thing, and then El Paso is
El
their own thing.
Paso. Yeah. Um, our good friend Dan, probably ecstatic or maybe heartbroken that Willie Fritz is leaving Tulane,
Yeah.
taking over Houston. What are your thoughts there, Michael? Is that something like that's weird, or like actually that could be a sneaky good hire? Like, is that going to be? Is he going to cause problems for the Big 12?
I think it's a decent hire. And aside from paycheck, I'm really kind of baffled as to why that. Yes, conference, Power Five, all that kind of junk, but man, it's still very, very close to a lateral move to me, considering how successful he has been in Tulane the last, well, especially the last 2 seasons. But I guess, I mean, really, he's ramped up the last 3 or 4. But I do think he will have some success. I mean, I kind of think that them and A&M made good hires.
Yeah, I don't.
Not that A&M's hire will affect Texas Tech directly, really, but Houston's can.
No.
But he's built a heck of an offense there, and apparently he can recruit well. He's got some really good players to go to Tulane, and Hopefully he can recruit to Houston. I imagine he's familiar with recruiting in Houston. I'm sure that was one of their big targets.
Yeah. And East Texas for sure.
Hmm. The Midwest.
The entire state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Anybody else you were surprised by or found interesting?
I guess the whole Colin Klein situation, going to be the offensive coordinator at A&M. I think that was about half of my Twitter feed today. A lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth from our brethren up north and in the true Midwest.
Yeah. So does that mean is Will Howard going to be a Nagy,
I don't know. He's in the portal.
or is Avery
He
Johnson going to be in the portal now?
boy,
Because
that would really
that would really suck for
let's
them. But like, let's
let's not
let's not
let's
open
not
our
wish that
hearts up for that.
let's not
Yeah.
wish that too much on the K-State brethren. They have had a rough week, and if the guy that they just were, because when Will Howard announced it, I saw so many of the same. Oh, if anyone following the program's not surprised by this, besides Avery Johnson's, he's our guy. Oh gosh. Oh no. That would be really bad for them. It'd be awful. It should happen
Just hate to see it.
because they have beaten us like 11 out of 13 times. I think it's time for something to happen in
It's
Tech's
time.
favor.
All right. Speaking of it's time, let's talk about the Texas Tech departures. Those that have officially hit the portal. We had known that Tyler Shuck was going to announce and enter, and when it became open, he did. Has since committed and will be headed to Louisville.
Go Cardinals.
Go Cardinals. I don't hate that move. I don't hate it for
No.
him. Good luck. I like a lot better than going to UCF, only because I wouldn't have to play him or see him again. But I thought he could have been successful at UCF.
Sure.
Not that it makes any difference whatsoever to me because they're in the SEC. But did you catch all the guys? Not all the guys. Did you catch the guys from OU heading out? Probably headed to follow Jeff Lebby,
I
namely
saw some smoke of that.
Dylan
but-
Gabriel.
Yes.
So yeah, he went from UCF to OU. Now is head of the excuse me, head of the SEC. I had another word stuck in my mouth. I couldn't get past it.
Where's Lebby at?
Mississippi State.
Oh, he's their new hire. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So their current quarterback hit the portal. And they'll probably just be swapping out, taking on Gabriel. You see all the other quarterbacks that hit the portal, like the guy from Washington State, Cameron Ward, Gabriel, obviously Shuck and Will Howard. You got a comment from Matt Rule saying, yeah, basically going to cost you $1.5 to $2 million to land a decent quarterback these days. I was like, that's a lot of freaking money. I just like you would assume they're gonna command some of the larger NIL deals out there. But then to think of like to be competitive, and this is Nebraska, right? They're not like some huge budget school. I mean, I'm sure they are, excuse me, but
I was about to say
they're not like in the headlines of like making these kind of deals out there saying like if you want one, it'll cost you $1.5 million. It's like, golly, it's a lot for programs like Tech to have to figure out what to do with if you're going to go after, a portal quarterback.
I just think it's a great plan, by the way, to force the consumer to pay for the players they want on their team and guilt them into it. It's just solid plan.
Hey, you guys wanted this, right? Like you wanted players to get paid. Great, you pay them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I just love it.
All these NIL collectives from the school.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Financed by donors like you and me.
Yeah. No one's going to take a lesser salary. The TV money's not going to go towards it or anything. Nope. It's all coming from us. Two people who have a podcast.
Okay, so speaking of taking a
It
lesser
starts with
salary.
us.
Did you hear Harbaugh's comment about like he would be open to taking a lesser salary if it meant the players would get paid?
No, I
Again,
didn't.
like that's lip service, man. Like the
Oh, it's all
the
lip service.
the the account that is paying your salary can in no way be tied to accounts paying for NIL deals for players.
Yeah.
Like those two things will never cross. The only thing it would cross was if you wanted your assistant coaches to make more money. That's it. If you're taking a
Yes.
pay cut, it'd be for your coaching staff. I just thought it was
It'd be like
stupid that he would.
I would be willing to take a pay cut too
Yeah, I'm
if
willing.
the players will get more money. It's the same thing. Because my money comes from no way the same pool that the Matador Club comes from, or whatever.
Unless your firm is a huge benefactor into the Matador Club. Who
I'm
knows?
working on it. I'm trying. Got a
As
meeting
long
tomorrow. We'll see what I can come up with.
as long as you're not sacrificing your own salary, though, right?
No.
All right, other
Never.
guys, other tech guys in the portal. I mentioned in the open that we might have an offensive line. You've got 4 offensive linemen in the portal as of this afternoon. It may be more, but what we have: Landon Peterson, Seth Martin, Matt Keeler. None of those are really surprises, and then you get Monroe Mills, and you're just like, what's going on there? Like you understand, like the backups want to get an opportunity somewhere else, but then you get your starting left tackle. I don't have like the grade on him. Felt like he did a much better job this year than he did last year. But also like wasn't a guy that you were like, holy crap, like Monroe Mills is on our team. Like we've got this. So maybe he's just trying to figure out what his value is out there on the free market, right? Which is, all power to you, man. But that was a little bit of a surprise. And then wide receivers. Michael, you may not have a wide receiver room after this week. You have to completely restock everybody. And when you look at the scholarship numbers, and our good friends over at the Gamma Gauchos have done that breakdown, defense actually dominates the number of scholarships on this team. I think it was like 50 to 34. But so far, you've only had one defensive scholarship at the portal, whereas you've had 1, 2, that's 5, 7, 9, 11 offensive players at the portal. You're just like, can we sustain this?
Well, and you mentioned something that reminded me. Sorry, it's kind of a change of subject, but the Washington State quarterback going into the portal. Did you see that Texas Tech's schedule juggling next year may lead to a replacement of the Oregon game with heading up to Pullman to play Washington State?
I had heard this, but I hadn't heard a lot about it. No.
But that's kind of the plan. It seems like right now that's what they're exploring. I can't believe it's just I can, but it's so crazy that next year's schedule is just completely pretty much blanked aside from the conference games that we know we have to throw in somewhere.
Can you expound on that? Is there a reason why that's all getting thrown out?
Well, because of Oregon's new, I mean, everybody joining a new conference, I think, is throwing a wrench into everything. So I think Oregon was having trouble finalizing their schedule with the Big Ten, and everything involved with that. I think there was what was the other game Tech was trying to get into or out of? I can't remember, but I know that that's a big part of it. Everybody's getting acclimated to their new homes, so it's just kind of strange.
Sorry, I was looking at something, and I was looking at the bowl gifts post from the athletic department today. Apparently, some of them, or maybe all of them, are getting those little 17-inch Blackstones.
Oh, nice.
Anyways, yeah. So we had concerns about the wide receivers during the season, and the guys that are hitting the portal. I think the only surprise maybe are guys that you would really like. I don't know. I don't put words in your mouth, but like Miles Price hitting was kind of a surprise. And then guys that were in the wings waiting, you thought would have a great shot at stepping in, but maybe they had their opportunity and got passed up. And like Nehemiah Martinez, Tyler King, JJ Sparkman, Loic Fungi. I don't know. I have a hard time being optimistic about the wide receivers moving forward because you've got Coy Aiken, you've got Dre McRae, Jordan Brown, you've got Hudson coming in. You've got some guys that are on campus now that you're redshirting from this past recruiting cycle. But
Xavier White.
Isn't he out of
Is still
eligibility?
here.
I mean, like he'll be able to play in the bowl game, but
he'll be able to play in the bowl game. You're right.
But
That's
like
true.
I was thinking in terms of next season, like your production out there next year's going to look completely different outside of Aiken. You think I'd know how to say his name? It's Aiken. And then other guys around it, you're like just new names, right? It's not like all that. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting this many wide receivers hit the portal. That's all.
Yeah, I don't have a positive spin for that either. That just seems like a problem to have almost your entire position group leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
There's no positive spin from me. That's it. It seems bad. This seems bad, guys. They were all contributors.
At one point, yeah.
If not this year, last year, TK didn't get out there very much, but a lot of high hopes for Sparkman, but he never really got on the field this year. Martinez had a great year last year. Bradley was Tech's leading receiver in yards, I think, but still generally felt like he underperformed. Price was the leading receiver in receptions. Fungi wasn't on the field as much this year as he was last year. So these are all guys with experience that have played for quite a bit of football for Texas Tech. And it's a lot to replace.
Yeah.
But, if you hear everything you hear points to, well, if McGuire wanted to keep him, he would have figured out a way to keep him. So he's okay with letting him go. Every other coach is saying that too. Every other fan base is saying that too. No one is going. Anyway, I just always take these with a grain of salt. Like there's not everyone that enters the portal needed to go. that's we're not better for everyone that's entered the portal, although some people will have you believing otherwise. Good. They sucked. They sucked anyway.
Yeah.
Better off without them. Well, who's going to replace them? I don't know. But we've got 6 receivers in the portal and one about to graduate. And we're losing the tight end that's going to graduate. It's fine. 2 of them.
Yeah, but at least 2.
I think, is it Teeter and Cup?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tharp will still be around, thankfully. Maybe this is going to absolutely force this offense to throw more than 1 pass per game to our gigantic receiver with excellent hands.
You would hope so. I mean, I hate that like you only get there because of, the lack of depth or lack of bodies around them. But then the lone defender in the portal, defensive back Nate Floyd, wish him the best. Again, I would assume more guys from the defensive side you'd hear about that. But honestly, it felt like that side of the ball had a more healthy relationship or environment. Like you weren't ever screaming at your TV that your defense was just inexplicably bad. Like,
Or you
yes,
weren't
they were bad plays, they were blown
bad
coverages,
plays.
they
Sure.
were missed tackles. Um,
That's football.
you could point to points in the Texas game where there was little effort, whatever. Like that when you're down by 50 points, it happens. Or you miss a tackle, you take a bad angle, you take a bad step. Some of that you chalk up to the other team having a better athlete than you did, or they made a better move, or they made a better read. It happens. But to be like this transfer heavy on one side of the ball would go to show like maybe the defensive side of the room has got a bit better environment going on in the Texas Tech football training facility. Anyways, some positives. You nabbed a couple of junior college commitments this past week or so. No, I guess not week. Defensive tackle Danny Saili from Hutch Community College, 6'2", 355 defensive tackle. And then tight end Alex Line, 6'5", 255 from Garden City. So you like those Kansas community colleges up there? They seem to have pretty good rosters. You had a bunch of guys in this past weekend that were hitting the portal or were going to hit the portal or whatever. I'm not sure how all that works out, or maybe they were all junior college guys, but it's going to be flying because signing day is next week, I believe, or the week after. Oh, early signing period starts the week after. So your recruiting class is going to have to be wrapped up. You've got a game you got to get ready for, in the middle of all that. You're going to have guys coming in from mid-season from your high school class, which I guess where we're going to go next, right, Michael? Because your bowl game, you got selected to the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl on the first freaking day of bowl games, Saturday the 16th.
They only the first games are always the best ones.
That's what
Those
they say.
those are the coveted bowls. So we did it, everyone.
We made it. And not that it would have cost or gained your incoming guys a whole lot, but like it's so early, like even your newcomers won't be able to join the team and go through practices or at least get around the
Right.
team.
Yeah.
You're not expecting Micah Hudson, and I'm sorry, like I gotta warn people, if you're expecting Micah Hudson to be like a 1,000 or 1,200 yard receiver with 15 touchdowns next year, you're probably setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. He's not going to come in and be a savior to the offense, especially if it's run the way you saw it run this year. One guy's not going to change that. A couple of practices directly following his high school graduation, going into the bowl game, was not going to change that either. Like he's still going to have all of spring ball to come in, learn the offense, to figure out his role and how to contribute. But it's also really unfortunate. Like you miss out on that opportunity to have these guys be around your team because your bowl game is so freaking early. And that's what I hate about. Like I love the matchup. I don't hate the bowl game itself. You get a Power 5 opponent. You get it near your alumni base, close enough where they can travel. But it's like, could we have scheduled this on the 23rd?
There's too many on the 23rd, apparently.
But yeah, so next Saturday, the 16th, you'll be in a bowl game. Texas Tech will be in a bowl game. Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl, taking on the Cal Bears. We'll get into that full game preview next week, but they also were 6-6. They were 4-5 in Pac-12 play. They won game 12 on their schedule to make it to bowl eligibility, beating UCLA 33-7. On the season, they did lose to Washington, Oregon State, Utah, and Oregon. So basically everybody that you would have expected them to lose to, all like the decent teams in the Pac-12. And they lost by a wide margin. Michael found the average score here, 52-26. They got doubled up in their conference losses. But
well, in those four.
Yeah, then they lost to USC by just one.
Yeah, it's 49-50. So a close nail biter there.
In terms of like who would be available, I don't know. Do you want to go through that this week, or you want to save it for the preview?
That's a good point. We can save it for the preview.
Okay, because we'll actually we'll see.
There'll probably be some updates too.
We'll see if there are any updates.
Yeah.
Rest of the Big 12. Looking at the bowl season, the Gasparilla, the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, Friday the 22nd, UCF versus Georgia Tech. On the 26th, Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Kansas versus UNLV. The 27th, Duke's Mayo Bowl, West Virginia versus North Carolina.
This is the Brown Bowl.
Yeah, Neil Brown. Why am I blanking on his name?
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown, because it's not a name. Did they used to play? Like, is there like a long history of West Virginia and North Carolina? I just don't know about.
What would that have been? Big East?
Yeah, possibly.
Let me look at Winsipedia.
That's what I'm pulling up right now. How did you know, man? Gotta close this ad. West Virginia, North Carolina.
West by God. They've played twice. Spencer.
Largest margin of victory. They're for the Mountaineers. They won 31-30. And the North Carolina won 20-13.
Yeah. So they played the 31-30 game was in 2008. And then the first game was in 97. So this will be the tiebreaker game.
You would think
to finally see who takes a lead in this storied series.
You would think 2 Power 5 programs that geographically close would have played more in their history than just twice. Anyways.
Yeah, you do.
Duke's Mayo Bowl, West Virginia, North Carolina, TaxAct, Texas Bowl, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M. It would have been funny if there were 2 Texas teams in that. Who's gonna want that? Who's gonna want that game more, Michael? The Pop-Tarts.
I'm gonna want to watch that game.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Pop-Tarts Bowl, Kansas State, NC State. I think I saw like Kansas State's already like a fairly significant favorite in that game, like a touchdown plus. Valero Alamo Bowl. Couple of states that weren't involved in the Alamo whatsoever. Oklahoma and Arizona.
Those states didn't exist.
Did not. Oklahoma were they part of the original land of Texas?
Part of it was.
Part of it was. I know Arizona wasn't.
When it was a territory, I think.
Yeah. Also, the Panhandle of Oklahoma. Like how pointless is that? I don't know. I don't know the history or who actually resides out there, and if it was some kind of it has to do with like reservations or whatever. But like, could that not have just been Texas?
I almost wonder if it was just a survey error.
Yeah, possibly.
That they discovered later. Oops, we forgot about this sliver. Give it to Oklahoma. I don't know.
Well, just okay. So also up in that area of like weird borders and boundaries, like the Texas New Mexico border up there doesn't align. Like there's something weird with that border too.
There's also something weird south of Lubbock where once you get towards Lamesa, Tahoka, that area, all of the section corners, instead of being true north and south, they're cockeyed, like 15 or 20 degrees. Because whoever surveyed this gigantic part of Texas did not have true north, and it just kept going, and then eventually they kind of merged together, and someone went, "Uh-oh.
Whoops."
But we can't change it. It's too late.
It's too expensive. Yeah, okay, so it's the northeastern corner of New Mexico. So the part of the state border that extends past the northern tip of the Texas Panhandle is not in line with the Texas Panhandle. It's actually a little further east.
I even remember there being some controversy not too long ago. My mom went to school in Bledsoe, which is very close to the border of New Mexico. And there was some controversy a while back that, well, Bledsoe might actually be in New Mexico. We're not sure. And then I don't know if it was ever resolved or if anyone really went back into it.
I'm
the
sure.
school's been closed down for decades now, but it's still a community out there.
I'm sure nobody in either of these states would go for it, but like, let's just clean this up for the sake of having
Those
like
are
a
like straight
clean
lines.
map here. Let's go ahead and redraw that Texas New Mexico border. Go ahead and annex the Oklahoma Panhandle and the Texas Panhandle. It's just let's clean this up a little bit because that little intersection up there is a mess.
Your OCD's just your
It is.
geography class just
Because you
in
can't
a
just
cold
you
sweat.
just can't pull out your straight edge and draw a straight line there, man. You got to like get a little zigzag. Talked way too long about this because the Alamo Bowl, AutoZone, Liberty Bowl,
Never
Iowa State, Memphis, Sugar
Yeah.
Bowl.
Yeah. How about isn't that kind of a bummer to not even travel for a bowl game?
Yeah.
Oh, we get to play in the crappy Liberty Bowl. Great. I guess I get to sleep in my own bed. I mean, that's good. I don't know.
Wouldn't you want to travel? It's a bowl game. Wouldn't you want to go somewhere?
I know. Yeah, I do. I think so. I've just that's just got to be disappointing.
And then the All-State Sugar Bowl, part of the college football playoff semifinals, Texas versus Washington. Were you surprised or up in arms when the rankings came out? 1 through 4?
A little, yes. Especially once the reasoning, once the reasoning started coming out, they were even getting into detail about how they weren't impressed with Florida State's offense against Louisville on certain drives, and also discounting the fact that the personnel playing against Louisville on the 2nd of December might be slightly different the first week of January. So I was pretty flummoxed by it. I'm not super shocked by it, but for a Florida State team to just get bounced out because they're on their third string quarterback, that's basically it. That's basically the end. That's the story. Oh, well, you don't have you're not healthy enough. This should kind of outrage Tech fans because how many gosh darn years have we been to our third string quarterback? And if Tech had somehow pulled off something crazy and we're rolling into the Big 12 championship game with their third string quarterback, and then some committee members decided that Ole Miss had a better win and a higher quality law. I don't know. I thought it was pretty wild to me. But I was not surprised at all, one bit. You could kind of see it. You could kind of feel the tide shifting that direction.
Speaking of tide, you want to talk about them for a second?
It wasn't even intentional. I wish it was.
Is this just more confirmation that they hold such a bias? Like Alabama jumped 4 spots because they beat Georgia, and Georgia falls completely out of the rankings.
Yeah.
Like
Georgia doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. That was funny to me too.
But I'm pretty sure like the roles were reversed not even that long ago, where Alabama was 1, lost in the title game, but still was ranked in the top 4. Georgia though, you guys suck. You lost to Alabama.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to be there.
Terrible.
And they had that, what was like a 23-24 game win streak broken by that the title game loss. Like, you want to talk about a team that maybe had deserved to be there in their history. Like, it's Georgia. It's not Alabama.
Well, and everyone's, I mean, you saw it on Twitter a lot, but the 4th and 31 that Bama,
it was exciting.
Prayer that Bama needed to convert to beat Auburn.
But again,
like 5 or 6 win Auburn.
If you're going to go by a drive by drive, like if you're going to do drive analysis to
yeah,
to justify why Florida State shouldn't be in, like, But let's take a look at like how Alabama got into the title game. They needed a 4th and 31 conversion with like 30 seconds to go to beat Auburn. It's not great this year
Yeah,
at
I
home.
think I would be more up in arms about it if they were not changing to the 12-team format, because this would absolutely be the Big 12 winner if it wasn't Texas or
Yeah,
possibly OU. You know, if it was 12-1 Cincinnati, boot, you would be lucky to see 6 or 7. If it's 12-1 Kansas State, I love Kansas State.
bye.
No. Yeah, you would be outside looking in.
Yeah,
Conference champ, one loss to, let's say they lost to Texas Tech, but then they beat everybody else, won the championship game. But then, yeah, but Michigan was really good and Ohio State was good, and oh, this was a good Notre Dame year. Got to put them in. So I didn't really get upset. I feel like it was the best realistic scenario, because deep down you just knew that there was no way an SEC team was going to get left out. But at least it wasn't two, because that was really what I thought we might be heading towards. Some way to get Washington to number 5, or even Texas to number 5, which would have been earth shattering. But I don't think that would have been um, without reason. They could have made a case for it. They made a case for this.
yeah.
So it did rub me the wrong way, but I'm only slightly hopeful, because if Texas Tech ever finds themselves 12-1, they'll at least make the 12-team playoff. Even if
You would hope.
even if everyone, yes, even if everyone wants to take a gigantic dump on Big 12 strengths of schedule or whatever. Hopefully we won't be like Liberty or SMU or something.
Speaking of, I sorry, I lost the phrase you said that I was going to connect back to. Speaking of, let's look at the playoff matchups real quick, Michael, and let me get your thoughts on who you think will play for the title game. You got Michigan, Alabama, and Washington, Texas. Let's do the Washington Texas game first. Having watched very little Washington football, and maybe this is just recency bias, it feels like Texas is just going to curb stomp them.
Texas is good, guys. They're good defensively. They're good offensively. They're balanced. Sark is doing a good job of keeping that balance in his play calling. Ewers seems to be hitting his stride. Yeah, I haven't watched. I know Penix is really a great player, and in the Heisman discussion, they beat Oregon twice.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen firsthand how hard that can be. So I think it's Texas's game to lose, but I don't see it being as much of a blowout as you indicated. I do think it would be closer.
Texas is a 4-point favorite. And look at this post from SI Sports Illustrated. They ran these simulations between these 4 teams 20,000 times. They've got Texas winning this game, something like 14,000 of them. So it's a pretty significant 2-1 advantage there.
Why didn't they just run them 20?
I don't know, like why 20,000?
Why do we need that kind of accuracy on the data point? Just do it 20 times.
5, 1.
It's 5 even.
Anyways, so I think Texas is going to win this one. I think like they've got a fairly significant advantage, at least in my mind, having, like I said, watched no Washington football. I don't know where their strength would lie. Michigan, Alabama, it's a rematch from a game a few years ago. Like there's so much weirdness around this game, Michael. Like I don't even know how to feel about it. Like Michigan, is Harbaugh going to be with the team? Like where's all that going to be? I assume
Should they even be eligible?
Yeah, like all
The
that
fact
weirdness.
that they're eligible and number one, and that's kind of a farce of its own.
Yeah. And is Alabama actually good? Are they deserving to be in this spot? Are they going to beat Michigan? What is it? What are the odds? It is
Michigan
come
might
on.
be favored.
Why is it nothing? Okay. Sorry. That page was nothing but Texas, Washington. Very helpful.
That's what I live for.
Do you think it's going to be like a Texas Michigan title game? And if so, like who gets the edge there?
Texas is really good.
Same. I hate to say it.
I hate it. I hate it. I mean, we've already got them picked going to the national championship. We might as well pick them to win it.
No. They're gonna get a rematch with Alabama, and Alabama's gonna curb stomp them.
There you
Gonna
go.
return the
Okay.
favor.
All right. Let's go. Let's take that narrative.
There we go.
I'm with you.
Give me Alabama by 6. It's curb stomping Texas.
Whew.
Anyways, all right, let's talk basketball, Michael. We
Okay.
had a game tonight. Do you want to start there? Let's start there.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Texas Tech takes down Omaha. Omaha set 87-58. We did talk about this a little earlier. You had a 9-0 run in their favor to close out the game. So while you finished 29 points, you were at 38 points when that run kicked off. And the points ended up so very close to the Haslametric preview prediction. He had the game being 81-60, and you finished up 87-58.
He called in that 9-0 run.
He did
to help out his metrics.
Kerwin Walton, man, he wasn't 8 for 10 or whatever it was that McMillan was. But my goodness, he came to shoot. Finished the game with 22 points on 6 of 7 from 3, 8 of 9 from the field. Led all scorers in the game. Yeah, led all scorers with 22. Your starting 5, Pop Isaacs, Darian Williams, Joe Toussaint, Warren Washington, and Devin Cambridge. Only 2 of those guys ended up in double figures. Pop with 13 and Toussaint with 18. And I feel like Toussaint's 18 were actually quite a bit early in the game. Then you had a fairly balanced look from the rest of your guys. You actually got to see Kyron Lindsay out there on the floor tonight. He scored a bucket. A couple of free throws. Your plus minuses, man, they're wild. Warren Washington plus 35. Like you love to see that. Like he played 22 minutes. So to be plus 35 in 22 minutes is something else.
With only 4 points, he still was that effective.
12 rebounds, only 2 fouls, 1 turnover, 1 block. It does seem like probably a product of the opponent you're playing tonight, but seems to be playing a lot stronger, a lot bigger than you've seen him play recently. My complaint with him has been like he's a 7-footer. He's getting his shots blocked. He's not coming down with rebounds over a guy that he's got 6 inches on. Didn't seem like that was the case tonight. So that was good. Omaha coming into the game, we had heard that they were going to be super aggressive. They like to get into the lane, force the matter there, get some free throws, and they didn't give up a lot of threes. But on the night, you shot 50% from. Nope, sorry. You were 11 of 28. You were 50% from the field, but just under 40% from 3. 11 of 28. Again, that very heavily skewed because of Kerwin Walton going 6 of 7. But if you can find these guys, on your roster that can go off in any night and hit threes, man, that's certainly a thing to be excited about, enthusiastic about. Curran Walton, we thought this was his type of potential last season. So maybe having this type of game will open up his minutes some more. You'll see him on the floor a little bit more. But it was good to see. It was fun for a game where you didn't have to. This wasn't a game that was in question. Not that last week's game against Butler was not fun. It was a very entertaining game.
It was.
But you lost, giving up 100 points, and there were no good things to be said about the defense from head coach McCaslin. He said, when you give up 100 points, like what do you expect? That you suck, basically. You did take overtime, but they were a very talented and effective offensive team. Lose 103-95. You did come back. You had fairly significant deficits you were able to overcome. I think at one point you were down by 10 or maybe even 12. That you were able to come back from.
Even in the second half, yeah.
Yeah. Chance McMillan is where he went 8 for 10 from threes, 8 for 15 up from the field. So his 7 field goals that were not beyond the arc were all misses. He finished the night 24 points, led all of your Red Raiders in scoring. And granted, when you go into overtime, you kind of expect this, but also when you score almost 100 points, you had 5 guys in double figures, led by Chance McMillan, 94. Joe Toussaint, Pop Isaacs had 18 apiece. Devin Cambridge had 16. Warren Washington had 10, but did not have a double-double. Only had 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. But entertaining game. You did hear from Coach that potentially the atmosphere played a role in it. One, it's good that you get this kind of this environment, this experience, this part of the season. This is why you schedule these type of games. And you play these games on the road. McCaslin said like that most certainly had an effect on how the team played, especially early on. And on defense, he said they were uncharacteristic mistakes and lapses in effort and judgment sometimes, but you deal with that, you learn from it, you grow, you move on, you bounce back like you did tonight, and you said you should hope to be a better team, right? So you're 6-2 now on the season. Your next game will be next Tuesday. We will hit record on our podcast shortly after second half tip, or that it starts. There's no tip at the half, but as second half is kicking off.
You'll get it there.
Too many different sports metaphors and
after the second half stretch.
Yeah, as halftime's coming to an end, we will be hitting record and going live. Oral Roberts, Oral Bob, December 12th, 8 p.m. Here in Lubbock. Get your tickets today.
Yeah, and I think without being able to, I had a bunch of family stuff going on tonight, so without being able to actually watch the Omaha game, but I was able to watch the Butler game. McCaslin was right. The defense was pretty rough. Nobody was rotating. There were a lot of really open passes inside to the basket for some really gimme shots for Butler. But, the 3-point shooting, as good as McMillan was, going 8 for 10, that's not something that's going to be a reliable game plan. So I
say that.
Tech, I know. You're right. It's because that's where I'm going. I felt that Tech was fortunate to have had such a hot player coming off the bench in 36 minutes off the bench and have that kind of production from the arc. But his 3-point shooting alone, they shot 50% as a team last night or against Butler. So Tech's 3-point shooting on the year after the Butler game went from 27.4% to 30.8%. And then if I did my math right, after tonight's 39% outing, mostly because of Kerwin Walton. It went up another percentage point to 31.8.
So
So
in two
in two
games,
games,
yeah, 4.5%.
yeah, I mean, and that's huge, and that was something that really worried me at first. And I think I'm on record on this podcast saying, they'll start going in, it's going to get better. It has. I don't think this is sustainable necessarily, especially when it's just one player that happens to be on fire, and then you've got Isaacs who's been kind of out. I think he was 1 for 8 tonight. He hasn't been super productive from the arc this season yet. There's still a lot left, but that seems to be a big part of this offense, and something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure to hopefully just continue to improve as it has been, get closer to that 35. I mean, wonderful 35 to 40% range, and be able to win some games that way. But and to echo what you were saying with Washington down low, I've loved being able to see what they're doing with him offensively, getting lobs to him. I love the return of lobs, using his athleticism, his size. He is playing bigger, like you said, which is what you hope to see from a 7-footer. And I do think I've seen a change in how he's played, especially at Butler. But you know, just a lot of guys that are easy to root for, and a team that still has a long way to go to be a real contender in the conference, but they could get there. I'm enjoying the ride right now. As I'm so even keel that I really enjoyed an overtime loss last week because I was just blown away every time McMillan threw one up there, and he just kept draining them, kept draining
Mm-hmm.
them. Washington was playing great. Toussaint was just all over the place. Just a really solid game, except for the defensive, not effort, just defensive execution,
Yeah.
and just the ability to get the game that close, and then just kind of run out of gas, ironically, in overtime. But that was really one of the most enjoyable losses I've watched in a while. It's strange.
It was, like I said, it was a lot of
I
fun.
think I'm in a good mental spot, Spencer.
Um, well, we've had time to recover from that one. But speaking of
Probably.
not running out of gas, the Lady Raiders, man,
Yes.
10-0 on this season so far, receiving votes in the AP poll. Obviously, they are undefeated. Picked up another 3 wins since we last recorded. UC Irvine, Houston Christian, Sam Houston. Sam Houston was last night, 93-60. Um, Next up will be next Wednesday, Education Day. So lots of students from area schools will be able to go check out the Lady Raiders. 11:30 a.m. tip versus
Yeah, and
Incarnate Word.
if you're listening to that on the radio, it's going to be hard on your ears.
It's gonna be really
Lot,
loud.
lots of screaming children that are very excited to watch some basketball, which is great. But the first time I listened to one of those was last season, and I just couldn't believe it because I think I heard Chris Hines talking about it on Double T that morning, and just kind of mentioned it. He was nice about it. About
Mm.
it's a lot louder game. There's a lot more excitement going on with all the kids there. And then I listened to it and I thought, oh my gosh, this is this is a decibel level, not just decibel, but a pitch. This is a frequency level of. I mean, if you have any small dogs or large dogs around, you may want to keep the volume low because they may try to eat the radio.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun. So you know, if you're at work, throw it on, put it on the radio, support the Lady Raiders. They're kicking tail. Even we went to the Houston Christian game, and that was last Friday night. And of course, my little
79 to
one,
34.
yeah, and it started out really slow. Both Houston Christian and Sam Houston. Tech was didn't take the lead for I don't know, maybe halfway through the first quarter, maybe even later against Sam Houston, but then just never looked back. Anyway, I just wanted to share that my little one has been to just a handful of Lady Raider games, and she's gotten on the screen the last 2 that she's been to,
Nice.
and she got cookies last time. Those Tiff's treats, they came and found her, and the cheerleader gave her some cookies, and they tried to get a shirt to her. I think I told you about that, but I whiffed on the throw because it was just had too much mustard on it. I couldn't catch it.
That's unfortunate.
So yeah, she's just a at that perfect age where, aw, she needs some cookies. Aw, she needs this, and I'm the proud dad thinking, yes, I will at least get one of these 6 cookies. Because no one in my family likes oatmeal raisin but me. So
I love oatmeal raisin.
I do too. It's they're almost thankful for me to eat it, and I'm thinking, guys, no, this is
Thank
this
you.
whole box. Yeah, if there's a snickerdoodle in here, then okay, we might. I might take that over the oatmeal raisin, but unless there's like macadamia, white chocolate chip, or snickerdoodle, oatmeal raisins, that's it. Chocolate chips, most all chocolate chip cookies taste the same. They just all are the same. It's fine. They're fine.
Until
Oatmeal
you
raisin, man.
until you get into like specialty cookies that are meant to be like something else, like I'm thinking like Crumble specifically when they do like their like red velvet or their like cinnamon roll type of cookie.
Yeah.
Like for me, like if you exclude those specialty types, it's going to be chocolate chip and then oatmeal raisin.
That's pretty solid. Oh, okay. Sorry, back to Lady Raiders. So they play the 13th versus Incarnate Word. That's the Education Day game, like you mentioned. That's 11:30.
And then they're going to Hawaii, man.
Yes.
Love that. The next week, the 19th and 20th, Tulsa and Oregon State in the Maui Classic.
Some really good games there.
And then they get the Christmas holiday off, and we back to kick off conference play December 30th in Houston. You want to keep up with all of their actions because we don't have the bandwidth to even follow this many teams. Y'all should check out Seeing Scarlet, our friends Sibby and I always blank on one of their names. Shelby. Golly, sorry, ladies. Check them out anywhere you get your podcast. They are also wonderful friends and members of the Stake in the Plains Content Network. They do excellent work. They recently celebrating a 1-year birthday or anniversary, whatever you want to call it, for their account. And they've got the attention of Coach Gerlich.
Yes, absolutely. And different sport, but they had the volleyball coach on today, who I'm blanking on his name, and I've been wanting to listen to that because there's been a lot of scuttlebutt of the amount of players from the volleyball team entering the portal, and is there something going on? Is there something that needs to be addressed? And so they were able to interview him today and hopefully get some of those answers. And I am sorry, ladies, my day at work did not allow me to listen to that yet. So yeah, to just echo what you're saying,
Tony Greystone.
They are a force. Seeing Scarlet is your go-to for anything women's athletics at Texas Tech. And I mean, I think they talk about men's athletics too, but it's definitely not as much of a focus or a magnifying lens that they for their podcast.
I think it's interesting enough that 2 coaches on the women's teams are so similarly named. So you've got Tony Greystone, who's the volleyball coach, and then Tom Stone, who's a soccer coach.
That's exactly why I didn't say it, because I knew I was going to word salad those 2 together and screw it up. So I just went the very unprofessional route of the Texas Tech volleyball coach.
They even kind of favor each other a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
All right. Let's wrap this up, Mike. We've already talked a lot about cookies and food, but let's wrap this up with what we learned. What do you say?
I think we should.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right. I'm excited to hear what you have because you've got surefire ribs written down here.
Yeah,
You've piqued
I
my
teased
interest.
I teased this last week. A few weeks ago, I made the easiest, best St. Louis spare ribs I've ever made, and I wanted to share my method for those of you. And it's funny because when I made them, I was just going to go with the method that probably everyone has seen, the 3-2-1 method.
Yeah.
And you've got the smoker at like a lower setting, 225, 250, and you basically just season it however you want for 3 hours, then you wrap it for 2, then you open it back up for the last hour and you glaze it or put sauce on or whatever. And so I went back through my notes and I realized that I had actually attended an Evie Mays class, and I have been so focused on the brisket portion of that class, I forgot that they talked about ribs for a good while, and I took some good notes. So I kind of took their times and their methods and tweaked them slightly, and I selfishly tweaked them just to time out better for when I was ready to eat. But it worked. So here's basically what I did.
I'm taking notes.
Very simple. Whatever rub you want. I slathered yellow mustard all over the ribs
Mm-hmm.
as a binder, and then I used Perini's Ranch. We went to Perini's for my birthday. I bought some rib rub, and I put that on there.
Where is that?
It's in Buffalo Gap, south of Abilene.
Okay.
So it's a steakhouse, and they have all sorts of really great rubs. Their steak rub is excellent too. It's unlike any other rub I've had. So I had some good ribs there during our last visit, and I thought, well, I need this rib rub, and I finally, this first time I've gotten to try it. The only thing I did wrong on this, Spencer, was I did not use enough rub. I was kind of nervous about it. I thought it might be too spicy, and our little one likes ribs, and so I was cautious, but I was overly cautious. I should have seasoned them more. So, yellow mustard, your favorite rib seasoning. Temperature 275.
Okay.
On the smoker, just throw them on the smoker for 2.5 hours. And then wrap them in foil. And when I wrapped them in foil, I did nothing. I didn't add liquid. I didn't do anything except put the meat side down. Wrapped them in foil for an hour and a half. And then I unwrapped them and I sauced them. I had a sauce. That's something I would have changed too. I prefer a glaze, but I didn't have a glaze. So I used a sauce I had, and I sauced them for 30 minutes. I just put sauce on them and left them on there for 30 minutes. And I took them off. I never took a temperature. I never did anything. So, total cook time was like 4.5 hours. It was awesome.
So
and it developed like a bark, like a crust, but everything was still really tender and fall off the meat somewhat, which is what people like. We're not running a competition from my house. Man, the method was perfect.
we actually made ribs last night as well.
Because we both took advantage of the sale recently.
Yeah, I had
Ours are still in the freezer.
Yeah, so I only use one rack, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna attempt this method. Because I watched a video on why the 3-2-1 method was kind of on its way out. And it makes sense. Like it was simplified for people that weren't want to fuss with anything. They just want to do it, have it simple, easy peasy. But what you tended to get was a lot of overcooked ribs. And I remember the first few times I cooked it, I didn't necessarily have a problem with the way they came out. Last night, man, it was like pulled pork with rib bones in there. Like they were so overdone. And it was 3 hours at 250, I believe. And then, braised in the foil with a little bit of butter and rib candy for 2 hours,
Rib candy. That's what I want for Christmas. I've asked Santa for that.
meat side down, and then flip it over for the last hour with a sauce. I didn't put it on for an hour. It was on for 40 minutes maybe. Um, the problem was I took them inside. I loosely tinted them to let them rest a little bit because when they came off the smoker, it was like before 4:30 in the afternoon. So like it's too soon. It's not time for dinner yet. Also, a benefit of working from home, I can do barbecue in the middle of the week and have it at a decent time.
Man, not
Um,
fair.
well, I mean, you could just have your wife learn the ways, or you could. I had to coach Samantha through because we had ribs one day, and I was not going to be available to do I basically put them on, and then she did everything else. I had to
Mhm.
I left very extensive notes, and then she called me, and I talked her through it. Whether or not she wants to ever do that again, I don't know. I doubt it, but um, anyways, so the ribs, they rested. I took them up, and then what I like to do because I can see them better is I'll flip the rack over and cut them
Yeah.
that way and flip them back. The problem is they were so overdone. When I went to flip them back, I basically only the sauce stuck to the cutting board and the meat stuck with it.
Oh no.
So I went to flip it, I just it just shredded the entire rack. I was like, well, I mean, here are ribs, but it's not like you can pick up a bone and eat off the bone. There were very few of those. So one, I'm a big fan of meat. Sorry, what is it?
Meat church?
Mad Scientist Barbecue, and he was talking
Oh,
about
okay.
how you need to reduce your cooking time because, yeah, there are people that like the fall off the bone type of tender ribs, but there's also got to be some kind of integrity to it. Like you can pick it up and the meat stays on the bone.
Yeah. Yes.
I did not have that last night in this rack of ribs, and I haven't had that in the past few racks. So I'm greatly overcooking these things, and they're great. They're not dried out or tough or anything, but they're just overdone.
They're not what you're. There's not what you envision when you sit down
No, I want
and
to
you're like,
I want to hold the bone from both ends and gnaw on it like an ear of corn. And what I'm getting is I pick it up and if the meat stays on, it'll drape off of it. Like it'll stick to
yeah.
one side, like you tried to pull off the meat on a drumstick or something.
Well, this is. I did another method once. It was the 111 method, uh,
It's quick.
but it was like 300 degrees. So be, I did that on my Weber kettle, which is really small, so you can really only do one rack.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have super great success with that. And it was like a rub. It was a very specific rub that I did, and I sprayed it with pickle juice. It was a ranch dressing rub. I think I might have talked about this before.
I'm in,
Chef Michael Simon
I'm interested.
talked about it. Oh, it was great. I'll send you that too. And the method I thought was really good too. And I tried the method on something on a just a regular rub later, and it didn't turn out as well. And the Weber's kind of harder to maintain a correct temp and load the fuel properly once you've got stuff on there for 3 hours. But man, this is the first time I've used the smoker at something above 250 to make ribs, and that was what Evie Mays did. They have theirs at 275. The texture of their ribs is what I like, and I thought, well, I'll just kind of tweak what they did, and I actually cooked it less than they did, I think. But yeah, so 4.5 hours total.
Yeah.
And I the 275. I mean, I just think they looked like I wanted them to look. They had that kind of redness, a little bit of char. Um, but yeah, I mean, probably could even take them out of the foil sooner, and I don't think it would hurt anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rib
Sounds
candy. If
great.
I had what did I have? Had There's this brand called Marks at HEB. It's one of their in-store brands, I think. And I really like they have like this Texas pepper. I forgot what it was, but it's just like a black pepper barbecue sauce. and I really liked it for when I've made beef or something. Like that's what I've served on the side of my brisket, and it's kind of gets that anyway. I thought, well, let me see what they have for ribs, and they had a chicken and ribs barbecue sauce, and it was fine. I mean, it was okay. That was what I used, but that was just because that's where we were going that day. If I'd had the time to go out to Outdoor Chef or something, I absolutely would have gotten some of that apple rib candy or peach or
We did it's apple
mango.
cherry.
That yeah, that glaze is the way to go. That is we all or my wife and I both missed that glaze, but it just wasn't in the cards that day. But they still turned out really well.
Yeah, and that's I only put that on the ribs when it's in the foil. I don't use it again when I unwrap it.
Oh,
I used
I
a
only do it when I unwrap it.
oh, maybe that's where I'm messing up.
Yeah.
Well, because in your method you don't have anything in the foil, so
Yeah, in that one, nothing, not at all. I was just like, I'm just gonna throw it in there. I didn't add more rub because usually I add all sorts of stuff, some kind of whatever I feel like. Sometimes it's apple juice, sometimes it's apple juice and rub. What else have I done? There was like this butter, this like fake basting butter that was like a bottle of butter substitute. I've put that in the foil before.
I've done that.
The glaze. If I'm going to use a glaze, I'll put that. I've just kind of some sort of liquid. I've always felt like it needed some liquid, but man, I didn't do it this time. And when I opened it, it was just full of liquid. Like so much had come off of the ribs themselves. So I don't know. Might give it a shot.
Yeah, so Texas Pepper Jelly is the brand. They make rib candy, which is a rib sauce glaze. I steer clear of the spicy because my family won't eat spicy. And a lot of theirs have a spice component to it. Like there's a apple cherry habanero,
Yeah.
apple cranberry habanero, apple brown sugar habanero, black cherry and grape habanero. That sounds pretty good. But peachy peach habanero. Anyways, they've got lots of great things. I'm pretty sure you can probably find all these at Outdoor Kitchen. What we've done is we've done apple cherry. I did that in apple cinnamon. I had just a little bit of apple cinnamon left. Actually mixed it in with the apple cherry. Great stuff. Outdoor Chef, if you'd like to become a sponsor, let us know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can make this happen. Texas
We're
Pepper
very-
Jelly.
Yeah, we and by sponsor I mean
Hook us up with
we
some
don't-
rib candy.
yeah, give us a $5 gift card. I mean, we're not asking for much.
No, we need 3 $5 gift cards, one for each of us, and we give one away.
And maybe some of that. Oh, what is that? That charcoal like devil. Oh man, I swear by that stuff now. Jealous Devil. That is a great brand of charcoal, and they sell it out there at Outdoor Chef. Not a sponsor yet.
I've had some issues with my charcoal lately, and I can't remember which brand I like. I've done B&B, I've done Royal Oak. 'Cause I like
B&B is that at Academy?
it's usually in like a grocery store.
Yes, I've had some good luck with B&B. I've been pleasantly surprised with it because I think I bought a bag at Academy a while back. It's just kind of like I need some and I'm here, and I really liked it. And I bought another bag of a different type, and I think I've even had their competition oak briquettes. But anyway, sorry. What are you having trouble?
Well, like I use one of those chimneys to start everything. And like it just it says, oh, they'll be ready like in 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, like the top few inches of charcoal is not even warm. It's like, what's going on? Oh, that it went out. How did this go out with a fire starter in the chimney? And so like I got it going. I use a propane torch to supplement one of the. Actually, I ended up using 3 total of those fire starters, 1 in the chimney, dumped it out, realized the charcoal had unlit, put 2 more in there.
What kind of starters? What do you mean starters? Like the paraffin wax cubes?
It's not wax. They're what are they called? They're tumbleweeds. They're it's a product. It's real thinly shaved wood coated in wax in like a little 2-inch log shape. I will just put that in the chimney, put charcoal on it, and then light it from the bottom.
I use these Weber paraffin cubes, and they have been fantastic. I always light 2. I'm probably don't have to light 2, but I don't think I've ever had them go out, even on a windy day. And they can be found just about anywhere.
So that it's
Gosh, the link I sent you is awful. Hang on.
the one I get. It's branded Royal Oak, which maybe it's a Walmart brand, but anyways, I just having some issues with that lighting and staying lit. Has me sticking away from the Weber
Oh,
recently.
I see the tumbleweed things. Yeah, I've never seen those before.
Anywho's, I think that'll do it for us, though. Michael, what do you say?
Yeah, I think we can call it on that.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in on the live stream, interacting with us after the show on Twitter. Give us a follow at 23 Personnel, at PuntSuck, at Michael_LBK. We'll be back next week for the bowl game preview. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving